Obviously everyone knows Rory. I don't know if you've been here this morning.
You don't know me by now.
The Mrs. Rory knows him. But if I just get the rest of you just to briefly introduce yourselves, I'm sure everybody does know everybody, but just in case. So, Chris.
Hi, so I'm Chris Newell, CEO of ImpulsePay.
Kevin Dawson, Head of Payments for Oxygenate.
Tom Broadfoot, Head of Payments at IMI Mobile.
Benedict Doonan, Square One Communications.
Lovely, thank you, gents. Right, we've been talking about the Payment Services Directive, which kind of puts a sort of slightly odd spin on talking about sort of direct carrier billing. But if we part the sort of PSD for a moment, it seems to be a sort of groundswell of interest again in carrier billing from a more mainstream part of business. How can we as an industry exploit that to its fullest, Chris?
An interesting telemedia editor, not too far away from here, sort of wrote a couple of months ago about, I think one of the biggest challenges for the industry is actually, the marketing side. So how do we get our name, the technology, the processes that we have, which, I think this year improved hugely, and it's only going to get better from here. So a lot of the kind of carrier billing stuff now is working really well, but it's a case of how do we educate the wider market out there. A lot of the times, and even today, talking to people, we're still having conversations based on what carrier billing was doing, 3 years ago, not what it's been doing 3 months ago. And that difference, really, that's what's going to make this, sort of take off further. So across the APIs, across AIME, across the networks, the more kind of marketing, the more we can be taking that message out to people. I think, the bigger the payoff, really, for it.
Right. Kevin, what's Oxygenate's view?
Well, like Boca, we have an IMI license already, so we actually see the advancement more in the goods that we're not familiar with billing today. So it's a move and migration to the physical goods. We have the constraints that we have from a regulatory point of view today under the PFI guidance. So there's limitations on daily spends and monthly spends, but it opens up a whole new market, a mainstream market that today is purely digital. So that's where we see the real opportunity in engaging with the likes of takeaways, vending machine companies, let people buy physical goods, small denomination values, and charge it to their mobile bill. So that's where we're seeing the real growth. It's widening the picture rather than exploiting the picture that's already there.
Great. And Tom, from IMI's sort of perspective, are you looking at sort of how to exploit sort of physical goods side of carrier billing, or are you looking elsewhere for opportunities?
Certainly, I think all the APIs would be silly not to be looking at that space. Obviously, we've got some of the APIs that already have IMI licenses in place. Others, we've been exploring it, and we're looking at whether we need that for the areas that we'll be looking into. Sorry, excuse me. But yeah, ultimately, we're looking at parking, physical goods, quasi-physical goods, and excuse me, sorry.
Is it a long road to start implementing those sorts of things?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've been looking at e-money license for a couple of years now, really. But I think whether that's the end all for us at the moment, I'm not really sure. I think within the physical goods or digital products at the moment. So.
Okay. And Ben, Square One did some stuff quite a while ago about renting student bicycles.
Yeah, actually, the bicycles is quite an interesting one because I think there's obviously room with the physical goods things. I think the main push for the people at the sharp end of this is to get the mobile carriers to really get behind it, because in the end they're the ones holding the debt. And I think without their cooperation and without them really pushing this one, it won't happen, or you won't be able to get it to go as mainstream as obviously you're looking to get it to.
How do you sort of think you can achieve that? How do you get them to start
Well,
thinking
yeah,
like
that's not for us to achieve. What we're more interested in doing is taking the billing mechanisms that these guys produce and then implementing them with our customers and trying to find some kind of slick and easy way for that to happen. These are fairly complicated processes that are being explained here, and the customers aren't used to that. They're used to fairly simplistic sets of or transaction methods, and we've got to try and bridge those difficulties.
I think one of the things probably we need to be clear at from the outset is it doesn't need to be one or the other.
Yeah.
Anything is better than where we are at the moment. So even under sort of PSD1, yes, that can get phased out in a couple of years' time. It may be that we want to bring that in sooner instead there, but this kind of digital exemption or digital content is quite a wide definition. A couple of examples, so we can charge for time to go on the Wi-Fi on a train, or we can't charge for time to park your car at a train station. Just by looking at some of those examples, that creates a marketplace, and this is where the APIs, such as these, us three here, and this is our kind of job there, and it's our job to really kind of figure out, what are these opportunities at the marketplace? How do we kind of prioritise them? Yes, there's some big pictures out there, and let's push for those. But don't forget today, let's just be questioning everything and just see where those opportunities are, and push forwards on that.
There's what you say, you give the example of Wi-Fi on trains as a sort of buying time. That's been quite successful, isn't it? That's the sort of public buying.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a limited life to that because the government sort of announced they want to make all Wi-Fi free on the trains in a couple of years' time because trains are always delayed or something like that. But I think what that does show that actually when you put mobile payments out there in the wider audience, consumers do choose to pay by mobile. That is one of the most popular ways of paying for stuff. The challenge there is there's not enough, there's not enough finance directors educated in what's going on, and that's not happening because ultimately we're not working together as an industry enough to kind of get that out there, to the mainstream there.
Rory, you're from the body that represents the industry, not just about regulation, but this sort of thing. What sort of plans are there to try and move this as an industry in front of those sorts of finance directors?
Yeah, it's the mobile network operators are members of AIME, and the unfortunate thing is that the people who are representing the mobile network operators day on day don't have that sufficient clout with their management in order to really to convince their management, first of all, act as a whole. There are things that mobile network operators can't do as a whole, like talk about commercials, but they can act as a whole to actually create new industries or new opportunities for consumers. A very good example of competitors acting as a whole is MasterCard and Visa and Eurocard. Three separate payment interface companies work together to create the contactless facility that you now see spreading out across the UK and across quite a lot of Europe, where you hold your credit card in front of the machine. And behind that is a little technology run by a company called EMV, which is Eurocard, MasterCard, Visa. That's why it's called EMV. Three bitter competitors working together to create something new and open up a whole new industry. Mobile network operators can also do that. We try and facilitate those conversations. The things that help actually are announcements like, O2 has just announced that you can now buy an iTunes voucher on your O2 mobile bill. Of course, the other mobile network operators go, how have they made that happen? Well, they made that happen by somebody working out how to make it happen. It can happen, and then that enables a conversation to be moving up the ladder inside the network operators to say, that's just the tip of an iceberg of opportunity. Consumers want quasi-physical goods like car parking, and nobody carries £6 of change in their pocket. All right. Just use your mobile device, pay for your parking, put your registration number in, that's it. But in order to do that, the car park person needs to have the lion's share of the money that's collected, not 2/3 of it. So that needs to be thought about inside the network operators, and that's where they get all fearful, because they go, well, actually, we're going to lose all our current margin without again seeing that future picture. So AIME works with the network operators to try and build that future potential.
And to be fair to networks, I think they have listened to that.
They have. Yes.
They've all come out in their own. They're all unique and great companies and present their own individual challenges from time to time as well. But for us guys, the opportunity there. We've got most of. We're never going to get everything that we want. Would suggest things a bit too easy, but we're definitely getting the processes and the bits out there do it, which come from AIME, come from the business cases, come from guys like you knocking down the doors all day long, really.
And as someone with £1 in my pocket, if I'm going to spend it, what's the percentage that a network would? How obviously that pound, I like that pound to be worth £1 when I give it to someone, like the council for my parking. What is the...
It's less than you're paying the taxman now.
Right, okay.
A lot less
Is
than
it?
you're paying the
So is
taxman as well.
So is it 10% or 8%? What's it down to? Around there?
Yeah.
So they're not leveraging, they're not going to give us a comparable with other payment mechanics. Oh, they're not implying they're going to. So we're not going to go on a dog-to-dog rate war with credit cards, but they're leveraging the value that mobile and its convenience can bring. And what we're seeing in the conversations with the operators around the commercial benefit of them giving us some there is that saying, well, they're not, what they won't do is cannibalise their current revenue. So,
No.
so what they've said is they've ring-fenced all current things billing around mobile and said, that's revenue we're enjoying, thanks, and you know you're not having a bigger slice. But you come up with something new marketplaces, new industries, new scope, and then will give us an improved outpayment, and that's where we're going to see that benefit. And equally the benefit from there is the relevance back to them on their side is we're asking them to become a bigger debt house. We're asking, saying, the ARPU of an average user might be £30, £40 or euros, you're suddenly going to have them buy physical goods on that, and that could become £70, £100, £150 a month. And they say, well, do we really want to take that on board? Are we ready to become a bank? Do we even want to become a bank? And that's the comeback we got. So we're not going to get to the couple of percent margin that they're going to take and the rest to be a shared payment. But,
And I don't think we need to, because I think
No, we don't.
mobile conversion rate is typically much better. So what we need to do is get to within that territory where the conversion rates plus the network fees is better than the credit card and conversion rate fees there. And we're in that territory now.
And also the uses for this are likely to be things that where the carriers can tie in marketing opportunities. So it might be that Boris bikes are called Voda bikes, and you make your higher payment, or that if you're at Glastonbury or something, then you're buying a burger, and there's a lot of commercial tie-in there, so that they're seeing value in different ways, and also they get to they know who their customers are every time a transaction's made. You're getting some quite interesting data about the customers. So
I mean, that certainly goes down the
whether
US
mobile
model,
phone
isn't
companies
it?
want to know what people eat, but I'm sure it's valuable to them in some way.
well, we've got the commercial beast. The guys are there to make money, and to do that, they're looking for new revenue streams, not cannibalising the ones they've got. So we find they're pretty open, they're pretty receptive. What they don't want to do is sit and have a 3-hour conversation about traffic they've already got and will always get. But when we're talking to them about new services, new opportunities, whatever that is, physical or otherwise, they're encouraging us. They're saying, bring those case studies to us, and let's build a model that works for everybody. It kicks off in a beta test in the first instance, but it's just proving ground really, and I think it's an exciting time, and I think mobile payments in the heart of that, actually I think we genuinely are starting to see some real compelling case studies coming together now, which we've talked about the concept of, and I think we're now starting to get some real realisation for that. So I sense it was getting a bit downbeat, but I actually feel, I think we're on the crest of something actually quite significant.
Yeah, I think potentially it is, isn't it? But with the likes of sort of O2, say, dealing directly with Apple for iTunes vouchers and things, is there a risk that if it's too successful, people like you guys actually get squeezed out of it?
Yes, there's always that risk. I think we're small and agile enough to be fleet of foot and to be innovative and entrepreneurial enough to create the niche in the marketplace itself and to create a differentiation between the market insight and knowledge. And two great big brands will grab some real consumer traction, but there's always peripheral spin-offs from that, and I think we can live off that fruit that falls off the tree on the back of that. So competition to a point is healthy, and actually the fact is what they'll create is the waking of the beast, and the market starts knowing what it is, become comfortable with it. And if we're in that as specialists, I think we'll all benefit from that longer term than any immediate hit we'll get from direct correlation between two big brands.
Do you think sort of down the line that you're going to be just sort of used to pay for very small things, very niche products, maybe a packet of fags or a newspaper, vending machine things, while other brands like, say, Apple Pay or Zap and all these sorts of things are handling my weekly shopping and all that? Or is there a play in that really mainstream sweet spot for companies like yours?
Today, I don't think we have a play in the mainstream for higher value goods. We have regulatory constraints to say that we can't do that for a start. But these things evolve in time. So the conversations at a regulatory level, at an operator level, develop usually with evidence that actually it's in their best interest to expand it out. It's too early to call. Our initial focus is we're talking about the sub £30 kind of transactions and more often impulse and spontaneous based purchases, not so much the big white carrier goods and the like.
So, prepaid cards have no real benefit for users. We used to look at it, we've got our credit cards and debit cards. why would we have a prepaid card when we've got that? And it's the same for mobile billing, that, yes, there's another form of mechanic out there that people use. It doesn't need to be better, it doesn't need to be worse, it just needs to be an alternative. The value that companies like ours offer is that we sort of, we put a layer on top of that. So, you take the mobile network, they haven't got the capacity to deal with tens of thousands of merchants, we can. We have to also look at things like the conversion rate, the user experience, how that works, the regulation around it. And that, when you start to put that value into it, we can then create, the marketplaces to run from that. So at the point of purchase is, I think, where it matters the most. So when the consumer is, mentally committed to making a purchase, and they see those options down there, mobile should be there. And what we need to be doing is saying that you want to be using that one because you've got a good, you're having a good experience. It's the easiest. It should be the easiest way to pay at that point in time. Under 30 quid, yes, it's great. We're not going to be selling Ferraris on a mobile phone,
No.
unfortunately. It has its place, and under £30 is perfectly viable.
Say we buy a fridge, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but then there comes the point, you're not going to buy a house on your credit card. You're going to do a bank transfer at that point. So they all sort of link in there.
Relative ceiling to most things, I guess, and I guess we're feeling that first ceiling at that current regulatory limit, but do I see it being the fridge, buying the plasma TV because there's a big tournament coming up in the next 2 weeks? I'm not sure, but if we can hit the mainstream with the sub £30 billings, then that's a great place to be, because we're not there today. So let's hit what's there now, rather than knowing where we may be in 5 years. I appreciate we need to know where we're going, but I'm happy just to
big
get
one
fat
of
and
the,
healthy on what's there now.
Yeah, no, quite.
Do you always see people looking at a mobile device before they're offered that option, or could you see, say, a gaming console with rent a movie and pay using that stream? Could you see those transactions?
Do you mean sort of using the mobile payment thing but on other
Yeah,
things?
yeah,
Like
so that-
mobile, yes, that was one of my questions. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess if you're online on a sort of fixed computer or a games console or anything.
Well, PlayStation, you can actually buy credit for PlayStation and buy your PlayStation downloadable games via the credit that you've transferred from a mobile phone. I think actually both of them do. Is James still in the room?
I think you're getting a nod from the back there.
Oh, right, yeah.
Just nod to
So yes, you can. That's I was referring earlier to money transfer. That is effectively a money transfer from a convenient spot, which is your telecoms bill, over to a place where you want to use it, which is your PlayStation console.
And James, sorry, can I just ask you about that? So is it very obvious when you're buying content on something like a PlayStation? How is it just say this is going through Boco's payment mechanism? It's not obvious. It's going off to Vodafone or off to Orange.
In the actual user experience, all of these merchants have some sort of paywall. We'll have a list of different payment options, and typically we would use like a more straightforward pay by mobile button. We're not precious about our brand, and in some cases we might list all of the mobile operators' logos, and that's what merchants want. They think the affinity for the customers with the mobile operators' brand. And if the merchant agrees to that, it means that we give them 4 or 5 bites of the cherry. So you might have a credit card, PayPal, then you can use all the operator buttons, then there's more buttons for people to press. So we try a few things out. I think on Sony PlayStation, there's like a radio button that says pay by mobile. You click on that, and you get all the ease and convenience of paying quickly using the mobile phone. Yeah, it's been hugely successful.
I mean, the online world is just, that's just one part of the world, and the number of times I'm sort of sat in, Pizza Express or somewhere like that, waiting for, the person to come back for my $17.99 bill, and you can just do the code with your PayPal account on that, and there's all those kind of options that mobile payments can tap into there. It's just a big marketplace. There's enough room for everyone to.
But then, because of the nature of the fact that people are often offered this payment mechanism through a mobile phone, then the natural place to go and look is when people are out and about. So if you were paying for a coffee at a Starbucks drive-through or something whereby the mobile is almost in part of the process or aids the process, the fact that you are out in the car park or are on your bike or whatever these things are, they seem to all have that as a kind of a theme running through them at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. As payments enter a new, or mobile payments enter a new sort of territory or new market, there's got to be a consumer education piece to go with that. The consumers don't know what they're going to do, then, with all things, it'll be the best technology in the world, but it'll make, no conversions if people don't know how to use it. So that's, again, sort of where, people like us come in, that, we have to somehow figure out how to educate consumers, either by making it so simple that they can do it the first time round, or there's something to explain the benefits and it's a bit more sort of in-depth kind of process.
It goes back a step before that, isn't it? It's not even how it's actually telling people that it's there, and not all you have to do is press this and it will work. How do you do that? How do you initially get these things in front of consumers?
Just down to the relationships with the merchant. If you can persuade a merchant that it's going to make a big difference to their business, and give it a kind of prominent position in the kind of the paywall page, so on that, then it'll be in a it'll be the if it's a default mechanic, then most people will go down that route, and therefore most people will then buy use their phone. If they're not so sure about it, then they'll probably default to credit card because they don't want to jeopardise their existing business and try to do something different on that. And so you see a percentage of people, but then they realise after time, that it's the most popular, and they need to give more emphasis to that.
How have you found, all of you that implement, pay for it, how have you found that sort of user journey? Are people using it? Is it actually working?
Yeah, we've seen this application, but until very, very recently, we've only just opened the dialogue around the physical billing base, so there's no real evidence case study that we can show as a live offering there. But in the same space everybody else, whether it's Wi-Fi access in the hotel or the train or whatever it will be, then we see that quite commonly. So there is a mainstream understanding of it. But I mean, getting back to your original point about how to educate the consumer, well, actually that mobile device is the perfect tool to do it. Mobile marketing is really, really effective. It drives footfall in the retail space particularly to the point of purchase. And what we're now is that disconnect, we're now reconnecting. We're actually saying, we've taken you off the high street into the retail store, to the product, you've picked it up. Don't bother going to the desk, just do it here. And we're complicating what's actually is a really, really simple, seamless process if we make it that. I just think we'll get carried away running around trying to be really creative and smart when actually all the components were there except the pay proposition. I think we're now into the territories where we can start bringing the whole end-to-end piece is now there.
And definitely, this year, it's only taken until this year where the commercial proposition's been there. We've been pushing in an industry for a year to get the commercial proposition.
The operator buy-in to give us that commercial positioning. But it is there. It's not. We're not waiting on it now. It is there. So.
Do you think you'd like to see sort of TV ads featuring this? And because if I mention it to anyone I know outside of this industry, probably anyone outside of this room, they don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I think there's a trick being missed if we don't. Is my view. It's a compelling medium. It's the major medium that people are going to.
They would know if you used the phrase in-app billing, though, wouldn't they? And then you'd say, well, do you actually know how? Like the idea that people get a bit of software and suddenly they're making microtransactions. Like every parent is now familiar with that because.
Yes. Yeah,
so it's only if somebody comes out with some killer app like the next Minecraft, and instead of just going straight through the portal, like through Apple to pay through Apple, they're actually get dragged off and are actually paying direct onto their phone bill. It could get very, very big really quickly. I mean, it would, like one thing like Minecraft using this mechanism, because it's financially it's more attractive to them, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It would just kick the door down. I mean, that would just it'd be everybody would want to use it all of a sudden.
I think it takes time though. You just kind of don't get those things overnight. As an industry, we don't have the budget of someone like Apple to, sell to it and create the developer community.
But the interesting thing is that something like a Minecraft, it's an independent company that produced that. It would only take one guy sitting in a room who develops the next thing to think, I'm going to use that as my payment mechanism for my in-app billing, and suddenly it doesn't matter what your budget is because somebody else has done it for you, and you have the potential. If you go and find those people, for that to happen, and it's sitting there, it could happen in 3 years' time, or it could happen next month.
I think you have to look at the combined sort of experience. So if you've got your kind of new person looking at it, one of the first things they're going to come into contact is PhonePay Plus, and they have to sign up PhonePay Plus. They've got to agree to the 12 code and soon to be 13th code. Well, that's really probably where AIME, bring Rory back in here, but kind of where AIME probably spends a lot of time is, although we're sort of out sort of front side, trying to get the clients in, we need people like AIME to make sure that as they're coming in, we're giving them a good experience and we're not sort of throwing up all the barrier to make it too difficult or too hard for new entrants.
Is this a sort of reputational problem with this type of billing? Do you find, was that now sort of...
I mean, the reputational problem is with carrier billing too closely associated with premium SMS.
That's what I mean.
And it's entirely different technology. It's, different process, different technology, different, they should not be categorised as the same thing, but they are. And, somehow we need to break away from that. I think, as it takes off, as more people, use it, it will become known for its own things. It will have its own, ways of doing things that is supported there. But right now, we've got a history that we have to deal with.
Do you guys come up against that with on the sort of merchant side?
No.
Do you think, oh, this is the dodgy stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies look around premium rate and all the bad things that have happened with it. But I think the benefits or the things that have made that so easy for customers to make purchases is what's going to make a new charge to mobile market so attractive for people, because they want it to be clear to the user the product that they're purchasing. Unlike I think what's happened maybe in the premium market, where people are obviously putting a product in front of them, people are making the accidental purchase. But I think it's going to take one big service, or people can buy a bus ticket or one of these other kind of physical goods. And once people get to see that and understand that they can buy things to charge to their mobile, then I think this is where this market is going to be massive.
Kevin, reputational issues with it?
Historically, we do find, I know James touched on it, the ownership of trust sits very strongly with the operators, we find. So when we're talking about a payment mechanic that has operated back, we find that knocks down a lot of the initial fee or reservation of... They
feel that it's safe.
It's still there. It's often still asked, so it's still there. There's still a seed somewhere planted. The fact that we can talk about it being an operator-proof flow that we're going to be running through here, it's their payment mechanic, and we're an API of that. That dispels a lot of those fees in the first instance. And I think the other thing we need to remember as well is we're not... We'd love to, but I think we're not talking about taking over the payments world here. I think in reality we're talking about becoming an option that isn't there right now in a lot of spaces. It's becoming just an alternative. Will we become the default from an ease and convenience point of view? I think we'll always have the hesitancy from the merchants to make us a default choice, because there's still a better return for them to seek something else. So it's a long game we've still got to play. But I think it's a game that's big enough now for us to start getting excited about having real conversations on.
That's not. Sorry, and so that's not necessarily to say that the premium SMS element we want to get rid of it. Tom's probably talk a bit more about it, but all the TV side that IMI do, they're not going to use carrier billing. It's not set up, or it's not really set up for that environment. So it doesn't say we want to get rid of premium and want to put carrier billing in it. What we want to do is add to the market and to keep adding in lots of different areas to get a bigger market for everyone to work in.
And whether the users actually make that correlation between premium SMS and the charge to mobile purchase. I think when they're going and they hit the payment wall and they choose the mechanism that they decide whether it's credit card or charge to mobile, I don't think they're then seeing that as similar to maybe a premium rate service as such. So I don't think...
I mean, definitely there's a broader category, and we probably, we're definitely guilty of like sort of pigeonholing different technologies in different categories, but overall, there's probably what we call it, charge to mobile, charge to bill, whether the networks want to come up with next on that. It's about just getting the consumer to buy using the technology that we have, whichever's the best technology at that point in time.
And I was going to put this to you, Ben, because you sort of are not consumer facing. Is there a reputational problem with sort of these carrier billing premium rate?
No, I think that it because people have a pretty strong relationship with their mobile provider, I don't think there would be. I think people would actually see that as a point of trust. I think it's a positive thing myself.
Excellent. Are there any questions from the audience? We've got a few minutes. Mr. Burkett.
About 3 years ago, a young girl from France or Spain, I think it was, did a very good presentation on ISP billing used in some of the other European countries. And I don't see this varying from ISP billing very much. How long do you think it would be before in the UK you see all the other operators that aren't mobile going down carrier billing? Because I don't see it as a mobile service. I see it as a billing service for a carrier, of which there are lots of other UK carriers in the UK. So if I'm on my iPad at home, or I'm on my iPhone at work, on the Wi-Fi at work, I want to be able to go through and choose the payment mechanism. That could be paying my TalkTalk bill, or my Vodafone bill if I'm out buying a bus ticket. So it's carrier billing, and I think it's a much, not a much bigger market, another huge market with the fixed line ISPs and operators in the UK. How long do you think it'll be before you see that happen?
From our side, it's an exploration conversation we've had. I'm reasonably comfortable with what the ISP concept is. Essentially it is billing against your Wi-Fi provider, your broadband provider. The mechanic is the same. We, to date, aren't establishing any conversations with ISPs in the UK to do that, but actually it is a pretty simple, logical thing to do, and France has had it long established for many years. And it works well in France as well. It's not just an ad hoc thing.
And the charge of the bill in France is much higher than we're talking about here in the UK on the mobile networks.
Yeah,
Hundreds.
it's what we're talking about. It's convenience and choice.
Yeah.
And that is another very logical, easy next step. Today we're focused on the mobile space because we have the appetite of the operators to do that. ISPs are a very logical way to progress it.
I think it's, I mean, you know, great opportunities out there. You know, so I pay my kind of gas bill through a direct debit. You know, they could be ringing me up saying, you know, have some installation stuff or something like that, and charge it to my gas bill direct debit. You know, there's loads of companies that have the kind of banking arrangements. It's not just mobile phones that have the kind of arrangements. Lots of other companies in various shapes and forms. What it comes down to is that kind of like appetite for risk. You know, are they prepared to, you know, allow additional sales? You know, they might not go for all, you know, for anything and everything. There might be kind of phased, you know, parts to it. When they're ready for that, you know, there's companies like us that have expertise, and you know, you guys as well, expertise and knowledge in how to do that on the mainstream. You know, it will have to be regulated from somewhere, because anything to do with payments is regulated, and you know, it should be regulated. Out there somewhere, there's probably an FD, you know, who's wondering why, you know, revenue is going down, what you can do to get it going up. You know, at some point they might make the connection. You know, the mobile phone networks have, so let's reward that for the time being and see what happens.
What would be in it for a gas board or a gas supplier to start billing through their bills? What would they gain?
Well, they could just, you know, ring people up, you know, so let's say, you know, British Gas, you know, ring them up saying, you know, would you like, so I was on Amazon the other day and I've got a little wood burning stove, and it's like a nice little kind of sort of, you know, fan that goes on top of it to blow the heat around it. It means you burn 50% less logs or something like that. You know, if they kind of identified that I had something like that, they could say, you know, would you like this shipped to your address? Because they already know where I live. They've got my bank details.
A margin on selling you a
Yeah, so ring you up, you know, ideally a nice person in the call centre explains it, press 1 to confirm that I want to buy it, and it comes through the post. You know, it could work really
It's a new
seamlessly.
revenue stream. I think it's relatively limited. I think the ISP space is a little bit different because it's communications. It's familiar billing. It's the most logical utility bill to apply it to.
Yeah. The telecom side of it makes sense. I've never
Yeah.
thought of other people that have billing.
But all you're looking for people who have that, you know, that banking arrangement, because it all goes back to a pot of money somewhere, and typically it's in a bank, or you know, they're holding some money for you, cash for you there. So you know, whoever's got that relationship and whoever's willing to do something, you know, with it.
Are there any sort of VAT implications if you're selling physical goods?
Which one?
Or there's a lot of
Yes.
bank spaces.
Yeah.
You're asking.
You have to charge VAT.
I'm not financial. I don't know the answer to that question. I won't try.
You can charge less VAT for some items, but everything's taxed there. But with carrier billing, it's not a problem because the VAT is not part of the transaction. That's paid by the merchant at the end of it.
So it's in the
But then
price.
it's in the price.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent stuff. Rory, anything to add?
No, I was just thinking of what you were talking about on the gas companies, because the gas companies who actually bill you are effectively billing companies. That's their core, because they're not supplying the gas. That's already coming to your house via Transco or whatever they call these days. So it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility that the smart meters which talk to your home Wi-Fi could actually enable you to add stuff to your utility bill. So it's a feasible. I mean, anyone who has a billing arrangement with the consumer, there's a margin to be made out of billing for the goods that they're not currently billing for.
So what you're saying is that if I'm a Scottish Power customer, I might want to add shirt from next on
Yeah.
my Scottish Power bill. Or
Yes. Yeah.
The smart meter's
That's right.
just a mobile
with
device,
with a
isn't it?
smart
It's
meter.
not-
Yeah, with the meter, stuck on the wall with the dials, impossible.
So in effect, you'll end up not with utilities companies, but you'll have a bunch of billing companies,
Yeah.
and I can decide what I buy with which one of them.
Yeah.
There's got to be a user experience in here somewhere, so it had to sort of make sense to the user somehow. But yeah,
You've got to decide which one you've still got any credit left with, Mark.
That's all I've got to say.
Excellent stuff. Any other questions before we move on?
Adam from Square One as well. Given that we've seen it with other payment mediums at the minute, people have often got their bill at the end of the month, and it's a term we're all familiar with, which is bill shock. Do you think that there's an opportunity present here with the ease of payments and the ability to buy things, that people could end up with a large bill at the end of it if they're not able to see the transactions appearing in real time? And is that going to lead to chargebacks? If so, how are the providers prepared and able to deal with that?
Very good point.
Very good point. Yeah, I mean, bill shock is a big issue, and a lot of the we talked earlier about subscription services. A lot of the issues that pop up on subscription services is the person who's got into the subscription, usually a young person in the family, charging against the account, which is probably taken out by either dad or mum, gets the reminder messages and the initiation messages, and then just goes delete. And mum and dad, after about 3 months, go, I'm sure I signed up to a £30 a month contract, and it's been £50 a month for the last 3 months. And that's where you get a very, very disgruntled customer, is that awareness of that billing mechanic taking money out of your account, or something is taking money out of your account. So to sort of take your point, the ability to continuously operate a live bill rather than wait till the end of the month to get your bill. Actually, this is how much your bill is at this moment in time. That has got to go hand in hand with any enhanced payments from a mobile operator's point of view, and give consumers complete access to absolutely the descriptions of the bill, rather not just summaries, but what you have billed, very much like a credit card statement, but in a live basis, and that was dollar. Chargebacks is a different thing. There's inside financial regulation, there is a process for how you deal with chargebacks, and that's actually laid out in regulation. Inside network operators, there isn't an established process, and we spoke a lot earlier about PhonePay Plus actually is not a consumer dispute resolution body, whereas in credit card industry there is a consumer dispute resolution body and a process. So that's something that, if it gets bigger, M&Os need to think very carefully how they implement a consumer dispute resolution process and a body at the end of it.
I think, with any payments company, I think payments are slightly different. So if you're selling something and it's not quite working, it's a bit broken, that's part of what's going on. You're kind of expecting it, and you have that relationship with the merchant. With the payment company, I think there's a responsibility in there that says, in sort of Mark's presentation earlier on, that we can prove nowadays, we can prove exactly what the consumer was doing. We can say, you were there, and we have, the equivalent of, CCTV looking at them to, really prove that consumer bought the item. But if they're not happy with it, and, there might be some other trigger that we don't know about why they're not happy about it, there's a kind of a line that you cross somewhere in there, and it's different for every customer, it's different in every industry and every scenario. But I think that's where payment companies need to kind of recognise, that if we're going to take this mainstream, until these kind of processes are, well established, through years of usage, there's got to be a degree of flexibility. So if we all sort of said tomorrow, we're just going to agree to that letter of, PhonePay Plus or operator codes of conduct that said, you are not entitled to a refund in this scenario, whatever the circumstance. All that's happening is we're putting off problems for the future, and it's going to come back a bigger issue. Whereas if we actually be a bit more kind of responsible about it, and we look at these issues and we try to find ways to fix them and be a bit more delicate about these situations, then we can work through it together, and we get to the end there.
It's also providing the consumer with all the information they need through the whole payment process. So when they come to actually make the purchase, if they're being told exactly what they're buying. And then with the operators at the moment, they're a lot more flexible in what they allow you to put on the bill. So you're going to get less bill shock, I think, when the person's actually reading the bill and can see a full description of what they actually bought. I think it's just, where you get things on your bill and the description isn't there and isn't complete, then people will phone up, I think, once they understand what it is, and again, that goes away. So it's just making sure they get the information, one, when they're buying, and then two, when they get their bill. And that way, hopefully, you're not going to get the shock of people picking up the phone. I think even in that instance, when they pick up the phone, as soon as they find out what it is, these types of goods, there's not going to be any
Yeah, so
issues
we sort of had an interesting kind of take on that recently, that like a mother and a daughter fell out, and the daughter went on and just spent 600 quid, knowing that the mother paid the bill, just to wind her up. Mother complained off to PhonePay Plus came back and we could show all the logs and stuff. But in that scenario, the daughter was fully aware of what she was spending, what she's buying there. She just did it over a couple of months as well, so she knew she was sort of building up on that as well there, and just did it to get her own back on the mother there. But
that can happen over.
yeah, I mean, what can you do? You just,
use a credit card, can you? So,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the difference, is we're talking about the role here within this marketplace of we are the transaction house. So in the physical goods environment, they're buying a good, they will go back to the merchant with any issue on that good itself. So if the goods aren't fit for purpose, if they're not happy with it, they will go to the store or the merchant that they bought it from, as you would with any other payment mechanic. The only element I don't think they've given enough thought to, and the only thing we've had of any exposure is on the chargeback fees, because the operators a twofold risk. It's the debt leverage that they're going to increase on, and it's the billing for goods that aren't ours. And how do we handle that? And does every merchant that we go into bed with have an effective customer care mechanic that can address that? And they're all the same kind of questions that we've posed to them, and they haven't really given us clear answers. And hence why at the start I talked about us looking at individual user cases and beta testing. It's because it's very, very early stages of it.
Are you also going to be able to tell your customers who are using the products and services, if there are chargebacks, who they're attributed to? So that, for example, in the case of Square One, if we've got many customers who are using one of the providers here, and we have some chargebacks at the end of the month, are you going to be able to say, this chargeback was for this one was for this one was for this, or are we just going to get one lumped in figure saying, here are the chargebacks sort of thing? Or
It would.
Yeah, how's the receipting on it?
We haven't seen it, but we force it. Again, because you're using the mobile billing, the metered average would be the primary unique identifier. So you would get the chargeback association or the unique element of what the chargeback relates to, just how you would do with a clawback now from the mobile operators. It's defined by MISDN date and timestamp. It would be exactly the same in the first
so it's all
instance.
traceable all the way?
Yeah, I mean, they have to justify. They can't just say, we're going to take £3,000 back for no reason. They have to provide, a degree of logs in there, to work backwards on that.
They do now anyway in the
Yeah.
clawback. I mean, I appreciate you guys may not see the clawback element of it, but the people that do, then that mechanic's tried and tested, and it's black and white.
Now, I was just thinking from accounting and auditing and whatnot for
Yeah.
people's accounts, that obviously makes sense.
Yeah.
But with operated chargeback, it's not like credit card world where there's a £25 fee attached to it. It's just that transaction is essentially reversed. So you've lost out because you've given the consumer the product, and you have to go somehow get that product back off the consumer. But there's no additional fee. It's just a transaction reversed, by someone somewhere, and it mirrored down the chain there.
Great. I'd like to ask you about whether there should be limits on what we can spend and all that, but that's probably going to take us way over time. But I'll quickly stick it in. Do you think people should have a limit to how much they can spend? How do you sort of go about doing that?
There are limits, whether we want them or not. There's
Just the regulation.
limits are defined now. The conversation beyond us proving that there's a logical marketplace here is to say, well, let's lift those limits, or let's put some caveats around lifting those limits. Today, we've got the constraint we have. Let's monetize and prove it where it is first, before we start asking for things that we haven't even proven beyond concept yet. So I think the ideal is they can buy whatever they want in whatever or choice they want to make. I think we're trying to bite too much off to have those conversations before we get running, really.
Also, when you're talking about really expensive goods, is the user, are they going to want to put that money on their phone to go and make that purchase? Really, I think it is more for the, I suppose, I don't want to coin a phrase, but the impulse purchase as such. So I think if you're going to start raising the limits to, we're talking £100, then I don't think that's the market for this, the charge to mobile as such.
I actually think we should have a limit, because we're not, like, our role, we're not the ones actually collecting the money at the end of it. That goes into mobile phone networks. they then have direct debit, they then have, someone doesn't pay that, they then have to then chase up those debts and all that stuff. So that, there's a cost within that, and there's a risk factor that they have to kind of weigh into it. So, to protect them, we need to be adopting limits, and we need to be, feeding back whether these limits are too high, too low.
Yeah, it's not
what we
going
can
to
do
look good
to...
if you cause them a load of grief, is it?
Yeah.
But the limits, they will define those limits rather than us. It's the key. The operators will tell us where their comfort zone is.
But, and if they feel the need to lower those limits, then we should be supporting them. Don't let them lower it to zero, and hopefully nobody would actually do that. But, we have to kind of be reflective of the chain, that we have such an easy job because we don't actually have to collect the money at the end of it. That's the partner further down the line, they equally don't have to sell the stuff, so they have an easy job there as well. But, the two need to work together.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.